Rock Hudson had a muscular physique and a handsome face, but inside he carried pain, hurt, and a deep, dark secret. He lost love and friendship because of this secret, and that wasn't all he had lost. Stick with us as we explore the tormented life of iconic actor Rock Hudson. Make sure to watch the video until the end, and if you're new here, don't forget to join our wonderful community by subscribing to the Vintage Hollywood Archive channel. Marlon Brando once said something about intimacy not having gender limitations or not being limited to a man and a woman. Marlon's best buddy, Richard Burton, also said that most Hollywood leading men had some inclinations to be in romantic relationships with other men. Burton added that they didn't act on those feelings because they spent all their time trying to use alcohol to suppress those feelings. Those two seemed to be right. Although unlike what Burton said, not everyone was eager to turn to alcohol. Some found their sexual orientation to be far more powerful than any drink. One of these actors was Rock Hudson, the hulking 6'4" actor of pure yummy beefcake. Women, girls, and men loved the man. He brimmed with intense masculinity, but looked harmless compared to other masculine actors. Montgomery Clift, with his radiant good looks, looked sad, loveless, and cheerless most times. James Dean was a tortured man like Rock was, but while Rock managed to hide his pain well, Dean carried his all over his face. Marlon Brando. Well, we all know how Marlon Brando was. His intensity and scariness made these other two guys look like saints at peace. So with how every other leading man had baggage, people simply adore Rock. He had the body of a god and the face of an angel. However, the man fought demons, a horde of them. He couldn't express himself as other people could. He was in pain as he had to keep up appearances to keep the adoration of his growing fans. This meant that all of his relationships were secret. Well, secret from the public, that is. Hollywood knew everything about Rock and his agent, Henry Wilson, who also had a reputation for being an agent for homosexual beefcakes. Rock sought love, but at the same time was deeply passionate about acting, even if critics made snide remarks and mocked him every chance they got. He loved his work, but he also wanted love. The solution was to keep everything secret. But the secrecy was exhausting. So, when a partner grew tired of the secrecy, they left Rock, but Rock always had potential partners, and he always got his type too. He liked them beefy, blonde, and macho. But getting his type didn't mean getting people who had his best interest at heart. Sometimes those who wanted to stay with him did so because of what they could get. Mark Christian, one of the men he had a relationship with, was particularly opportunistic. Mark didn't care how Rock was doing or feeling. What Mark was concerned about was money and, well, everything else. Mark wanted to act and would disturb Rock to set him up with the best acting lessons. The man would demand the best car. His preference was Mercedes, and he wanted new clothes always. Rock wouldn't get the love he craved, and as if that wasn't enough, he lost the friendship he desperately needed. Despite being careful, a rumor soon found its way to the media. TV, radio, and the papers carried the story of how Rock got married to Jim Nabors, the talented star of The Andy Griffith Show. Jim played the iconic comic character, Gomer Pyle, a gas station attendant that delighted the audience with his exaggerated Southern accent. He was also pleased with his operatic voice, too. Jim was living the life he wanted to leave far from his Alabama home. Gomer was such a hit with the audience that Jim got his show. While Jim was initially reckless, he learned to be careful, but he and Rock weren't careful enough. One of their friends joked about the two of them, and it got blown out of proportion. The two of them denied the rumors, but it stuck. So they had to become drastic. The two distanced away from each other. They were just friends and weren't in a relationship, but the media wasn't having it. The two ended their friendship and parted ways. Jim got the sweet end of the deal. He found what Rock desperately craved. Jim found love with Stan Cadwalder, a firefighter in Hawaii. Jim left the spotlight after meeting Stan, and he and Stan moved to a small Hawaiian farm. Sacrificing his career was a small price for Jim to pay to have love, happiness, and peace. Ironically, he reverted to the kind of humble life that he wanted to escape from when he was younger. He got the occasional job on TV shows and specials, and when the opportunity came, he sang to Heart and Pockets content. Jim was devoted to his partner until his death at 87 years old. The Gomer Pyle actor grew from being born in a town where liking men was not only a crime but a mental disease to living a life of contentment, love, and peace. Rock, on the other hand, couldn't find peace. He moved from one rocky moment to another. Eventually, he sacked his agent, Henry Wilson. Henry had become a thorn in Rock's career as more and more the powerful agent began to rely heavily on alcohol. The fact that Henry had a bad reputation and lost his vice grip on his clients didn't help the agent. He drank to the point he harmed his liver and got hospitalized. However, Rock stood by his former agent and helped with the hospital bills. Deep down in Rock, he thanked Henry for his career, but somehow we can't help but think he resented Henry too. Why do we think so? Stick with us and find out. Rock Hudson wasn't always Rock. He was once Roy Shearer, Jr., born on November 17, 1925, in Winnetka, Illinois. Roy Sr. left after his son was born, leaving Rock's mother to raise him alone. Eventually, she married Wallace Fitzgerald, a Marine who made Rock's life a living hell. Wallace didn't like how Roy was effeminate and picked on the boy. The big bully banned Rock from playing with toys. His reason? Wallace felt Rock playing with toys made him effeminate. Rock took solace in films, and Wallace had issues with that too. Watching dramas, according to Fitzgerald, was what women did. Rock must have felt relief when he joined the Navy and served during the Second World War. In the Army, the young man could be himself and express himself and had willing partners in the Navy. Eventually, he left the Navy and had only one thing on his mind: Hollywood. Rock wanted to be part of the glittering stars of Hollywood. So, off he went to the city where he could make his dream come true. Hudson got to Los Angeles and needed help figuring out where to begin. He didn't have an agent, nor did he have any form of training in acting. What the lad knew was that people told him he had the kind of face Hollywood wanted. He needed a job he could do before he became a star. Hudson began driving trucks, and when he had the time, he tried to meet Hollywood agents. But no one looked at him twice, as beefcakes were a staple in Hollywood. Rock wasn't special to these agents, but everything was about to change. Rather than just standing and leaning on his truck, thinking an agent, talent spotter, or executive would discover him, Rock met Wilson. Wilson had a not-so-secret reputation for representing men who liked other men. There was a dark side to Wilson's reputation. His stars had to give him what he wanted. We aren't talking about money. Wilson himself loved men, and he didn't keep this a secret. When the powerful agent saw Rock, he knew he had found his masterpiece. However, Rock wasn't Rock yet. He was far from finished goods. And so, the esteemed agent set to work. If Rock thought his stepfather was brutal, well, training for Hollywood was even more so. Getting a name change was the easiest part. Henry brought a dentist who went to work on Hudson's teeth so he could have a dashing smile that would boost his already handsome face. Then came the tailors who ensured that Rock wore custom suits that clung nicely to his 6'4" frame. It wasn't enough. Rock needed to be more masculine. Hollywood had an obsession with masculine men. This was the toughest part of Rock Hudson's reinvention. Hudson had to learn how to walk, move his wrists and hips, sit, and talk. Henry brought in a voice coach who taught Hudson to speak in a lower, yet deep voice. Then came the acting lessons, which were frustrating for all parties involved. Rock wasn't who you would call a natural talent. He was far from it. His first speaking one in a film was just one line. "You've got to buy a bigger blackboard," and it took him 38 times to get it right. The director of the film Fighter Squadron would have yelled cut to the point they couldn't yell it again. There was one take Fonda, and there was many takes Hudson. Still, he got a contract, and he dazzled the people with his undeniable charm. The actor then got to feature in a film the audiences enjoyed. From getting his much-needed big break in Magnificent Obsession, where he got the lead role, he looked strapping in his lumberjack top and jeans in All That Heaven Allows, where he played a gardener. He was the handsome cowboy in Giant, where his masculinity overflowed as he rode his horse on the plains of Texas. He even got his first and only Oscar nomination for Giant, much to the annoyance of critics. His involvement in Pillow Talk has to be the most ironic, as he had to play a man who posed as a homosexual. It must have been a fun role for him, especially as he got to be himself for the film. But nothing much was fun in his personal life. In fact, he was at the edge of losing it all. It all began when Life magazine published an article asking why Rock was unmarried at 29 years old. The article even asked Rock to come and reveal the real reason he wasn't getting married. Rock felt a cold chill run down his spine with the article, but it wasn't as bad as what Confidential threatened. Confidential threatened to out Rock, and that got Rock running around in fear. Confidential didn't play when it came to things like this. They did something similar to Liberace. But Henry Wilson wasn't just about to see his greatest creation destroyed. He met with Confidential and offered them irresistible gossip on some of his other clients in exchange for Rock's protection. So, he fed Troy Donahue, Rory Calhoun, and Tab Hunter to Confidential. Henry was the one that revealed the fundamental nature of Tab Hunter's arrest and the kind of party the police arrested him in. Still, it wasn't enough. All the fake dates Rock went on, which the studio organized, have reached their extent of usefulness. Rock needed something more convincing and fast. Fast forward a few weeks, Rock got married to Phyllis Gates. However, this made everything worse. Gate raised hell in the marriage. They had a terrible romantic life and began to unravel. She said things along the line that she didn't know Rock didn't like women romantically before they married. But Rock's friends said otherwise. They revealed that Gates knew exactly what she was getting into, and she also needed to cover as she liked women. The situation looked like Gates wanted to have her fun and didn't want Rock to have any. While their marriage looked enviable from the outside, the two fought like stray cats over a dumpster fish. Gates claimed that Rock Hudson wasn't so saintly, as he had bouts of violence, dark moods, and explosive anger. She also alleged that boys would call her at their house asking about Rock. So, Gates filed for divorce, but she did some dark things to achieve this. Gates took things to another level. She set up her husband. Somehow, Gates found Fred Otash, who has a reputation for being an amoral man, of getting some dirt on Rock. So, she got Rock to confess on tape about the true nature of his sexuality. Gates was done with the marriage, but she didn't want to leave empty-handed. Nothing screamed getting a more sizable settlement than having a delicious blackmail material that Rock handed to her. Gates was formerly Henry Wilson's secretary and must have learned dark arts from her former boss. However, Henry showed her why he was her boss. So when Gates had brandished her tape, Henry got the mob to deal with the people Gates had kept the tape with. Rock wasn't the dumb Rock that Gates thought he was. He knew how to play the game and had a scandalous photo of his ex-wife to keep her in line. However, long after Fred Otash's death, his daughter revealed the dark contents of the recording. While many people have treated Rock like an opportunity to make money, he did have a soulmate. No, we aren't talking about a partner. We are talking about Elizabeth Taylor, who he met after he shot Giant. The two had become lifelong friends, and even their neighbors could testify to this. The two would go late in the night, talking and drinking. They lived temporarily across from each other, with their filming location nearby. With Elizabeth, Rock didn't need to project strength. He could be vulnerable, and for Elizabeth, Rock was a great listening ear for all her troubles, her depression, and any other things that needed to talk about. We spent most of the time laughing, chatting, and being silly. They were like two kids. Sometimes they would even be out when it was raining hail. However, the fun would soon end. Rock's health began to fail, and he didn't know why. However, he soon learned the shocking reason behind his poor health. When Rock attended a White House function, the First Lady, Nancy Reagan, noticed that the actor had something that looked like a cyst on his neck. Nancy told Rock to check the cyst out, and the results were shocking. The star got diagnosed with AIDS. The cyst on his neck was Kaposi's sarcoma. From there, everything that could go wrong went wrong. The actor now had AIDS. Then, people thought only homosexual men could get AIDS. So, the star continued to try and get experimental treatments while he worked. However, he avoided romantic scenes and tried not to transmit the disease. Then it happened. His health worsened, and he went to France for more experimental treatments. Nothing worked. Rumors spread about the actor's condition, and his publicity team lied that the actor had liver cancer. But Rock was done with hiding. He revealed the nature of his illness, and everybody understood the other part he didn't say. Rather than the backlash and hatred he thought he would get, he received tons of messages expressing concern and care for him, and that wasn't it. He got only messages. People didn't want to get close to him except his friend Elizabeth Taylor, who went to his bedside and remained there until the actor passed. Rock's death changed the lack of urgency that America used to view AIDS and led to awareness and research into the illness. While Rock died, his death prevented the deaths of many. Wasn't that just the juiciest piece of gossip about Rock Hudson's love life? Our next video is going to expose the secret double life of none other than Bob Hope himself. So, buckle up, because if you thought you knew everything about this beloved entertainer, think again.